So it's been a long time since I've made a video. I wanted to make a video every 1 to 3 days, but nothing happened, and there was nothing interesting going on, so I had nothing to talk about. So here's a life update on school and that woman I took on a date. But first, I got great news on Tuesday that really affects my life moving forward that I'd love to share with you, but I can't because unfortunately, it's very highly likely that someone trying to ruin my happiness is watching these videos with the intent on ruining my happiness, and I don't want them to get in the way of my happiness. But just trust that what I'm telling you, the good news I got, was really good. So, anyway, let's talk about school. I finally got a refund for my first Core 1 exam because the testing situation was messed up the first time I went there, and I honestly should have been able to reschedule. So after a month of fighting with them about it, they gave me a refund for the first exam so I could take it a second time for free. But unfortunately, the second time, I only got 11 points more than the first time. And you have to get like 675 points to pass out of 900 points total. And I was 11 points more than last time, but I was still roughly like 20 points away from passing the class. So I felt really devastated, and I thought, this is going to be the end of my journey as a school, as going to school, because there's no way I can get this done. But I talked to my teacher and my school mentor about it, and both believe I am very close to passing. I just have to jump through a couple of the hoops before they allow me to take a next attempt. And I'm pretty certain that if I jump through these hoops successfully, I will be able to pass my next attempt. So due to my feelings of demoralization, my mentor suggested that I take a break and start a different course in my term, to just take a little breather from, these stressful attempts I've made. And so I started another course which was called Technical Communications, and I finished it in 4 hours. It required me to write a blog post that was less than 1,000 words on why a company should um, incorporate a new software service or hardware service into their company that they aren't already. So what I did was I said that food banks should use Google Maps and maybe eventually incorporate a DoorDash-like system for clienteles of food banks so that they can reduce waste, they can reduce time spent traveling, and they can feed more people. And it had to be less than 1,000 words. I finished the blog post in 230 words, and then you had to give a 5-minute PowerPoint presentation, which I also did, and I got the entire course done in 4 hours, which really isn't much of a break. But still, it helped me feel a lot more competent again because that's like 4 college credits in 4 hours. That's like almost a credit an hour. And so I mentioned this to my mentor. I was like, 4 hours isn't much of a break. Should I start health, fitness, and wellness, which would be my next class? And she said yes, which I'm not thinking I'm going to do it in 4 hours, but I also don't think it's going to take me several months like my Core 1 exam. And I'm thinking, like maybe in 2 to 3 weeks, I'll have finished this course and I'll have another 4 credits. The final is like a 42 question exam, and I think I can do that pretty quickly, and I think I can do it very competently pretty quickly. So then once I'm done with that, I'm going to start going through the hoops for my third attempt at the CompTIA. So, school's going well. It's difficult, but I'm certain I can do it, and I have people that believe in me that think I can do it. So all I have to do is start studying harder and take a quick break. So later today, I'm going to be talking with my teacher on how to start health, fitness, and wellness, which is what you should do before you take all online courses, is talk to the instructor and get their advice first. So feeling good about that. In about an hour, I'll be having that conversation. In other news, that woman I took out to coffee has been MIA since December 25th. That was the last time I heard from her. She said on our coffee date on December 6th that she'd be using all her paid time off before March, which kind of explains why I haven't seen her since December 19th. So I think it's safe to say she's still on vacation. The day I set up the coffee date with her, she told me about how she was volunteering at the food tank. And then at the day of the coffee date, she told me how the volunteering went, and she told me it was supposed to be a date with another man who ended up standing her up, which I must admit was very jarring to me, and it made me a little uncomfortable that she was so um, eager to go on a date with me when she was stringing along somebody else, and it made me wonder, like, how long until I'm the guy she's stringing along. It definitely raised some red flags, but I talked to some people that said dating multiple people is normal, but it also just struck me and made me feel uncomfortable. She also, during that coffee date, mentioned talking to several men, which, they're just friends, and but that's the way it goes. Is it just a friend, or is it just a friend, like, so there was I mean, she's a very gorgeous woman, so it makes sense that she's got a lot of men that want to talk to her. But it isn't inherently a red flag, but I would be quick to call it a yellow flag. It was concerning, but maybe she's just a social butterfly. So then anyway, after the Christmas after the coffee date, I got her a Christmas present, and one day I ran into her shortly before Christmas, right outside my house, essentially. And I mentioned that I sent her a text about how I got her a Christmas present, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't see that. Let me look." And then she pulled out her phone, and unfortunately, I got to see her screen, and she went to her text message, and she scrolled through dozens of messages. Luckily, there were several people underneath me as well, but it took her a quick second to find me on her phone messages because she had dozens, literally dozens of unread messages, unread texts, and that kind of like hit my ego as well as another yellow flag. Like, okay, she's very clearly a busy woman, which it mirrors what she's told me about her life, that she's very, very busy. But anyway, she said, when I ran into her that night, she said, this I can't wait to see it. I didn't get you a present. I need to go get you one. Can I pick it up tomorrow? And I told her she didn't have to get me a Christmas present, but to text me tomorrow. Well, I wake up the next morning and I have breakfast and I go on my walk, and at about 11 she texts me and says, "I'm finishing up some things for work, and then I have to take my dog to the vet. Do you want to and then we can meet up," is what she said. So I texted her back and I was like, "How about instead of meeting up, we go out for dinner later? How about we go to Qdoba for dinner, cuz Qdoba bless me. Qdoba's right down the street, and they have really awesome cheese sauce. And I also didn't want to, like, take her to a fancy restaurant for the first meal date. I figured Qdoba, it's not quite fast food, but it's also nothing too like emotional. I thought it was a good middle ground, and it's nearby. So she texted me back. She said that sounded like a really fun idea, and she'd love to do that. However, she had improv class from 5 to 6:30, and so that she would let me know as soon as she was done with improv. So I was like, okay, great, just text me back when you're done. And so I waited and I waited and I waited. And then 6:30 came around and I still hadn't heard from her, so I texted her and I said, "Hey, I haven't eaten yet and I'm getting kind of hungry. Are you still on for dinner tonight, or should I plan my backup meal?" And I didn't receive any reply. So I waited until 7:15 when I was finally like, "All right, she stood me up. I'm just going to have dinner." So I got in bed at 8, and at 8:15 she texted me saying, "Sorry, Robin, I'm so sorry. I sat down to take a nap and I fell asleep and I missed my improv class and I'm really sorry." So I didn't reply to her immediately because obvious I was a little frustrated and I didn't know whether or not I should believe that, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I got in bed and at 8 or I got in bed, and in the morning when I woke up, which was around 8, I texted her saying, "Hey, that's fine. I totally understand. You had just gotten back from a work trip. You had just been to the vet. You were incredibly tired. Like, I would have taken a nap too. How about we meet up soon, to give so that I just give you your present and that's it." And then 2 days later, she texted me again and she said, "Hey, I'm free to meet up in this window of time. Do you want to meet to give me my gift?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll be down there in just a minute." So we met up on the 19th, which I believe was a Friday. And we met up at the park and I gave her her gift. She was super excited to see me. She was very high energy. Her voice raised tremendously in pitch. She was a little flirtatious. She hugged me, and then as we were saying goodbye, I mentioned that we had to put a rain check on dinner, to which she very excitedly said, "Oh, for sure, definitely, I'd love to." So I didn't do much until Christmas, when I messaged her on Christmas and I wished her a happy Christmas. And I haven't heard from her since then. 2 days ago, I might have made a mistake and I sent her a low energy text just to let her know I was thinking about her, which she wouldn't have to feel compelled to reply to. I just said, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. I hope you're enjoying yourself." Just something low energy that hopefully if she sees it, she smiles and she doesn't have to like feel obligated to reply to me. And if she doesn't reply to me, it's not like I asked her a question, so it's something that could be left unread and she could either leave it on red and reply and I'd feel great, or she could leave it on red and I'd still feel a little rejected, but um it's been 2 days and she didn't reply, so that's giving me it's telling me that I'm very low on her priority list. But I'm still grateful that I took her out for coffee because I did have fun. But I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. I've got plenty of other options, but at this point in time, I'm thinking it's better for me to start pursuing these other women I've been talking to, and maybe not this one I took out on a date. Maybe it's time for me to ask some other women out on dates because this woman seems to be too busy. She seems to be very sought after, and she's not giving me a whole lot. I've done a lot of very nice actions for this woman, and she's given me very little to go off of. And while she may be an incredibly gorgeous woman, I'm thinking it's about time I start spending my energy on someone who wants to spend energy on me. It's a bummer because this woman, that I took out to coffee, when I see her in person, she's very high energy. She's very excited to see me. She's very flirtatious. She shows off her body to me a lot, which I find really weird that she wouldn't even say, "Hey, yeah, Robin, I've been doing great. I'll be back in town on this and maybe we can meet up." She just left me on red. So the fact that she left me on red, the fact that she, made a date with me while having another date with another man, and the fact that I saw several people that she wasn't replying to and I was very low on her list just kind of makes me feel like maybe it's time, even though she may be one of the most gorgeous women, she may be the most gorgeous woman I've ever set eyes on in real life. There are tons of other very attractive, very intelligent, gorgeous, beautiful women out there. And since it's been, over 2 months of really contact with her, I'm thinking, maybe it's time to cut the ties. Although, right when I do that, I know for a fact I'm going to run into her again. As soon as we get to March, when she said her paid time off will be about up, like that's when I'm going to start running into her again. And I know once she's back home for good, I'm going to run into her every day because when she first moved into the neighborhood, literally every single day I ran into her, which is why I introduced myself to her because we have common hobbies we like to do. We like to explore our neighborhood. So, I'm really wondering what should I do when I run into her again, given all of this events. But anyway, that's just a short where I've been and what I've been up to lately. Hopefully I have some more interesting topics to talk about later. But yeah, I'll see you next time.